to this Shroud of Turin. What's it called? The Shroud of
Turin.
Turin, yeah. And because there's a big movement right now on the internet to say that Jesus never existed. Christianity is simply a method of control to, in a weird way, like Q, where it's like, oh, patrons in control, just sit back, they're taking care of everything. What is your thoughts on Jesus, the Shroud of Turin? What are your thoughts on all that?
There's more evidence, more written about Jesus, even outside of the Bible, confirming that he was an historical figure than there is written about Plato or Aristotle, first of all. So for people who question the existence of that's not even a serious historical question. Even serious history professors who have looked at the documents, maybe they don't believe in the divinity of Christ, but they'll say, no, Jesus was real. He was an actual person. In terms of the Shroud of Turin, this has been kind of a pet topic of mine for many, many years. And I've read probably a half a dozen books, and I've talked to everybody who's anybody in this field. And I won't say 100% certain, because to me, that's maybe a little bit of, that's hubris, but I genuinely, I think, believe that this is the authentic burial cloth of Jesus Christ. And it contains evidence of a resurrection event encoded into the cloth. And when you look at, to me, it all starts with this photographer. His name was Pia Seconda. Around 1898, he goes to see this linen cloth. It's about, for those who don't know, it's linen. It's about 14.5 feet long and about 3 7 inches or 4 feet wide. And this was supposedly wrapped around Jesus after he was taken down from the cross and went into the tomb. And it has all these sort of obscure stains on it. And you really can't make out what it looks like. But when Seconda Pia decided to use a large format camera, remember those huge cameras, you see them like taking pictures of the Civil War?
Yeah.
He takes a picture of it because you really can't see what's on there, even if you stand back. But when he looked at the big negative plate out of that camera, large format negative plate, he sees a positive image. Now, why is that important? Well, for those of you who remember film cameras, you used to get like the negative. You would develop the film, and you would get a negative image on there. He got a positive image on his film plate, which means the image on the linen cloth is negative. It's a negative image. So for those people who think, oh, it's a forgery. Leonardo da Vinci did that. Oh, really? He painted a negative image. It's almost like an X-ray. You can see the bones of his hands underneath the skin. You can see his teeth underneath the lips. It's an X-ray. Tell me a medieval forger had the ability to produce an X-ray image on the shroud that also the wounds on the image correspond exactly with the gospel accounts of his torture and crucifixion, right down to the scourge wounds on his back from the Roman cat o' nine tails. They even measured, those whips. They had those little lead pellets on them, and they were spaced on these leather straps. They've looked at Roman whips. They've measured the wounds. They're exact. It's got the abdominal wound, which, of course, to check to see if Jesus was dead, they stabbed him with a spear. That's on the image. There are blood stains. It's not paint. There are remnants of paint on there, and I can explain that in a minute. But the blood the blood that came out was mixed with water. In other words, it was vascular bleeding, which means it was a post-mortem wound. Leonardo da Vinci had that kind of knowledge. Jesus was not nailed through the fleshy part of his hands onto the cross. I mean, they've done studies. It's too fleshy. Your hand wouldn't support the nail. It would just slide right through. He was nailed through the wrists. And the image on the shroud, the thumbs are concealed. Why is that? When you drive a nail through this nerve, it agitates the thumb, and again, they've done studies on dead bodies. The thumb curls under. So whoever did this forgery was able to produce a negative image that's encoded with three-dimensional information, by the way. It's a 3D negative image. This person must have had incredible knowledge, like 20th century knowledge of anatomy. It gets better. The interesting thing about crucifixions, and there were, thousands and thousands and thousands of crucifixions. This was the Romans' preferred method of execution. It was absolutely barbaric. People might say, well, this could be the image of any crucified person, except his legs aren't broken. Why is that significant? Because the Romans, in order to hasten death, because you would be up there for days on the cross, dying of dehydration and suffocating because you couldn't support your own weight. Mm. They would break the legs of the person, take a big, iron hammer or something, crack the leg so that you could no longer hold yourself up with your legs on that little wooden perch. We know from the gospel accounts, they didn't break Jesus' legs because when they shoved that spear into his side and they saw, blood and water pouring out, they knew he was dead. So there's that. There's also pollen fragments around the head. They were actually able to take pollen samples from the shroud, which corresponds with a thorny plant that only grows in that part of the world, the Holy Land.
I'm in, dude. I don't buy into this whole thing that it's a control mechanism. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't people that are like, I'm just going to let God take care of everything. I'm not. And if you are that person, I'm not judging you.
Yeah, that's my mom. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
That's my mom.
Well, I mean, there is something that's, that good is going to overcome evil. I get that. Yeah. I do think there's a lot of people that, are doing whatever they can to make a world a better place as well.
We might have lost the internet there.
Oh, no. Did we lose him?
Yeah, we lost the internet with them.
It's coming back.
Yeah, dude, I was in the emergency room one time for something, and
do you think he's going to come back?
I think
it was relatively serious, and my mom, and I'm like, oh, it's freaking out. My mom goes, well, I'll see you in heaven if you die. That's what she's like. That's how she thinks about it.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah,
She's like, you're good to go.
Yeah. Like,
well, it was nice.
Was used by Jews.
There he is. Okay.
What? Used by Jews? What? There we go. You're back.
Yeah,
Well, that was their burial method, right? With the shroud. They used a herringbone, a specific first century. It's all there. It's remarkable.
No, I'm with you, dude. And, I go off of the reason my show has been top 100 in comedy for 8 years is because we go by instinct on this show and we tend to be right. And when I just feel when I get closer to Christ, and like I'm a sinner, I keep making mistakes. I'm trying my hardest. I'm not perfect. And I'll never sell you out that I am perfect. You should never follow me for any leads in life. I try to give you information that you could use to wake up to what they're doing out there. But I'm no moral hero in any way. I'm trying my hardest. And but man, I just go with feel, and I feel like Jesus and the teachings of Jesus just lead to happiness. And it's like my biggest problem in my life are things of the flesh. Like, I have a crippling drug and sex addiction, and those things are, God will tell you don't do that, and you don't have problems. Yeah, I got problems. It's got problems, and I'm trying to fight them, and I'm doing the best I can. I'm not a perfect person. But when I follow these teachings about love thy neighbor, help other people, spread love, don't judge, forgive people, man, I'm a happier person. I really just am.
My limited experience with addiction and so forth, but people who have been through that hell, and you have been, it's like, you went through the gates of hell and you came back. To me, people such as yourselves that have been through that, I think in many ways, once they're close, they become closer to the kingdom. And I think, you are God's pride and joy when you come through that. You come out the other side. and you redeem yourself. And yes, we still stumble and fall and so forth, but God bless you, for having endured that and coming back. And that makes you a special person.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. So, my whole thing is like, there's a lot of people out there that aren't the fans of Christianity. They're out there and, they've been on the show and they're always welcome back on the show. I mean, we allow everybody on the show. You can tell based on some of the guests we've had on. They're a little controversial, but that's the show. We have the dangerous conversations. But some of these people, they don't believe in Christianity, but they believe in NASA. So, I mean, it's really hard to take that serious. It's just hard.
Well, the thing is, both can be right. Jesus can be real. Jesus is the Son of God. And yes, Christianity, the religion, can be controlling the institutions, whether we're talking about one church or another. Both things can be true at the same time. Christianity isn't about a religion. It's about a person, Jesus Christ. He was real. He lived. He died. He was resurrected. 100%.
Yeah, I agree with